My name is Kat Jordan. I am our JA Finance Park Manager, and I'm joined with Hannah Hess, who is our K through 12 Program Manager, and she's also going to be covering today for Sheila Yoder, who is our JA Inspire Team Leader. Just wanted to welcome you to our high school program and experiences our virtual open house. Hopefully we'll be able to give you a little bit more information as you think ahead to later this spring, but more likely to next academic year. If you are not familiar with Junior Achievement, just a little bit about JA as an organization. We are a nonprofit global organization, but here in the United States, we have over 100 area offices. So our office, JA of Middle Tennessee, really covers about 17 or 18 counties across the central part of the state. All JA programs are geared for K through 12 students, and we have three pathways: financial literacy, workforce readiness, and entrepreneurship. And so all of our programs are going to cover at least one, sometimes two, or even all three of those. Our partnerships, or how we kind of operate, or what our model looks like, is that we work with schools, whether that's whole districts, individual schools, even nonprofit partners that have student-facing programming to deliver our programs. And we often do that through our corporate partners. So companies will help fund our programs and sponsor us through their foundations or grants or general donations. And then often their employees serve as our volunteer base for delivering the programs. In terms of why we'd encourage you to consider Junior Achievement, JA has been around for over 100 years now, and our mission is really to help students see their future potential. And if they can have those corporate volunteers or those businessmen or women or people in the trades, whatever those jobs might be, as their volunteers, they can aspire to be that someday. And so that's part of that secret sauce of the JA volunteer. But we hope that through our programs, students would have an increased sense of financial security when they get older because of the financial literacy that they've gained, and that they would be able to narrow the income gap through work and career readiness, and also level the playing field through entrepreneurship. Now, we know a lot of students have big dreams for owning their own business. We want to equip them at an early age with that passion and some of those skills and tools that they're going to need someday. We have two types of programs primarily, and we'll go into these in more detail in a minute, but we have classroom programs. These are offered K through 12 and are traditionally delivered by JA volunteers, where a volunteer comes into the classroom and teaches a series of 3 to 6 lessons. So at the high school level, they'd come in for a class period over the course, one day a week for the month, something like that. And this year and going forward, we have additional delivery methods where there can be a live virtual volunteer. The volunteer can join in through Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, whatever the school platform might be. And then we've got several schools that are doing what's called the educator-led volunteer infused method. This is where instead of the volunteer delivering the program, the teacher actually delivers the program, but there are volunteer videos to help supplement those lessons. It gives a little extra resource, also still allows the students to see an unfamiliar face that they can learn a little bit from. Then our other type of program are what we call capstone programs. These, we've got 3 main capstone programs. We'll talk about 2 today, but they're offered for grades 4 through 12. These are traditionally educator-led. So capstone programs are a little bit more robust. Usually it's 12 or more lessons, and then that capstone or culminating experience where it really gives the students a hands-on opportunity to put all of their learning together into a really practical way, and often really fun and engaging too. These programs are adaptable to in-person learning as well as remote, and so we've seen that work really well this year and are excited to keep offering some of those virtual delivery methods in the future. I'm going to turn it over to Hannah to tell you a little bit more about classroom programs.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is a really great visual for the 3 components to our JA classroom programs. First, we have facilitator training, and that's whether the facilitator of the program is the classroom educator or a community or corporate volunteer. Those currently are taking place over Zoom or Microsoft Teams with myself. And I'll show you the online platform if it is a virtual delivered program, or we'll go over what those physical, tangible materials are like if you're in person in the classroom. Next is the 3 to 6 facilitator-led lessons, again, virtually or in the classroom. And then finally, the program debrief and post-test to see what information the students retained throughout the program. So these are the high school programs that I'll discuss with you today. Our high school programs are flexible and they can be utilized in any grade level between 9th and 12th grade. And again, they can be delivered in person or remotely by the teacher. And if it is teacher-led, then we have those volunteer supplemental videos. And then we have JA Career Speaker Series, which is accessible for grades K through 12. So all of our programs are very engaging and super interactive, even if it's the virtual delivery of the programs. So each session of the program has a hands-on activity that will coincide with the content of each session. So for the sake of time today, I will just go over like the high-level overview of each high school program, but we'll send out the slides to you after this presentation so that you have the hyperlinked kind of deep dive overview of each program here within the slides. But JA Career Success, this is probably one of our more popular high school programs. This program really sets students up for success in their future workplace. They'll learn about how to get and keep a job, different high growth industries, workplace conflict, how to deal with that, and then also dive into some soft skills. JA Personal Finance correlates perfectly with the Tennessee personal finance standards. But this is kind of written, it's like a health wellness pun, but for students to live a healthy financial future. This one will focus on concepts like income and employment, earning, budgeting, saving. It goes into credit and debt, consumer protection, even savvy shopping, risk management, and investment. Be Entrepreneurial, this program challenges students to think outside of the box and be innovative, but kind of to awaken their entrepreneurial spirit. So they'll deep dive into concepts like market research, funding, they'll build prototypes for this make-believe company that they've created, just to kind of awaken their entrepreneurship adventure. JA Titan, this is another entrepreneurship program. This curriculum goes along with a web-based simulation game. The students, they can work together in groups or individually, and they're in charge of their own business. They compete against each other within the class for this web-based game, and they can either win or lose the game by making decisions about their products. So think like pricing and marketing and better business practices. So Jay, it's my job. It's all about soft skills, as you can see. So think along the lines of like cell phone etiquette in the workplace, email etiquette in the workplace, and then it goes over interview skills, resume writing skills, and takes a deep dive into those. And then finally, we have JA Career Speaker Series. And this is just a great program where a community or corporate volunteer visits the classroom and kind of tells the students a little bit about their career, maybe what their day-to-day job duties look like, maybe what kind of education, if any education was needed to get to that career or how they got there, and just answer any questions that the students may have for them. So as far as details and what the registration process looks like for our in-classroom programs, there is no student fee or cost for hosting JA classroom programs. We do have our teacher agreement form available for you all school year. Our teacher agreement form is basically just a program request form, and I have it hyperlinked here for you within a Jot form link. But just so you know, for our planning purposes, the deadline to request fall programming is going to be mid-October, so think around fall break. And then the deadline to request spring programming will be mid-March, around spring break. So that just helps us plan our semester calendars because we do schedule those facilitator teacher volunteer trainings on a rolling basis. And I'll hand it back to you, Kat.
So a little bit different for our JA Capstone programs compared to the classroom programs. As I mentioned earlier, these are primarily educator-led instead of volunteer-led. And so the first thing will be an educator training. In the past, that has been an in-person training. This year it's been virtual. I would expect going forward, the virtual will stick around, and we'll try to add back in the in-person as things are accommodated to do so. But the educators will get trained on their curriculum. Both sets of programs have teacher guides that are very detailed with their lesson plans, so we'll talk about those in a second. The educators will then lead those lessons. There's a pre-program survey as well that the students complete so that we can track their growth from start to finish. And then after a certain number of lessons are completed, the students participate in their simulation, or that capstone culminating experience. Those are available for 2 of our programs on site and for all 3 capstone programs virtually. And that is typically where the volunteers are integrated in terms of that JA component. It's in those on-site simulations or in the virtual simulation, depending on the program. After the simulation, the students will participate in a debrief lesson and then have a post-test or a post-survey. So again, we can gather some good data on how they are learning over the course of their different lessons. Our first capstone program specifically for high school is our JA Finance Park program. This is actually a 7th to 12th grade program. Has a lot of differentiation in the curriculum to be able to be taught at both the middle school and the high school level. But it is geared towards financial literacy and that work and career readiness pathway. And is really a life skills class. The students will complete several units that you can see here. They've got a few lessons on income. That really looks at career exploration, determining what their expected income might be someday, given the careers that they're interested in. They do a lot of career assessments. And then also looking at tax dollars, where those dollars go and what they can expect their gross versus their net income to be. They'll then look at saving, investing, and risk management, understanding the difference between saving and investing, the types of avenues that are available, especially for some of those longer term goals, and looking at insurance and how that can really be beneficial to avoid some financial challenges later on. They'll look at debit and credit, understanding the difference between those 2 concepts, the difference between those little plastic cards, but then also learning about a credit score and the components that go into that, and how to establish a good score from a young age after high school. They'll spend a couple of lessons on budgeting, where they start to put those things together, understand what is a budget, why budgeting can be beneficial, not restrictive, but more empowering. And then they put all of that together through the simulation, which we'll talk more about in a second, and have that debrief lesson. So the JA Finance Park program at the high school level is often incorporated really in a number of ways. We most often see it in personal finance classes because a lot of the lessons do align with state of Tennessee standards. But we also see it in freshman and senior kind of advisory or seminar courses, as well as some CTE classes. And so a lot of flexibility in terms of how it can be integrated. There's actually 3 different curriculum models for JA Finance Park. We've got what we call the traditional model, or the traditional teacher-led model, which is really geared for kind of 7th to 9th grade. That has 13 teacher-led lessons, which include PowerPoints, student workbook, games and activities, all of which are available electronically and in hard copy, along with 23 or 24 extension activities. So those are going to be optional add-on lessons beyond those 13 core lessons. Things like how to fill out the FAFSA, how to file a 1040 tax form, how to start a lawn business, things of that nature. We have what's called the student self-guided version, which is great, again, for the 7th to 9th grade students. This is more of an asynchronous model. It can be facilitated by the educator, and those units are broken down instead into kind of modular components. I'll tell you more about that on a couple of slides coming up, but we've seen that be very popular this year, given a lot of adjusting back and forth from in-person to remote learning, and being able to accommodate both again, students who are learning from home, maybe students who are in the classroom, and everybody being on the same page. And then our most popular option with our high schools is the project-based learning curriculum, which is geared for 9th through 12th grade students. If you're familiar with PBL, project-based learning always has a driving question that students are researching and really pouring their energy into answering. And so in this case, that question is, what do I need to do today to accomplish what I want in the future. And they kind of work backwards from there. It also has those 13 teacher-led lessons, 12 before the simulation, the debrief after. Here, the students really need to have computer or tablet access on a regular basis because they are doing a lot of research with each lesson, where the teacher will introduce the concept and then the students dive in to that particular set of content. There are several creative outlets here to make the learning really fun and engaging. A lot of presentations, things like writing skits or making movies or commercials or things of that nature. And the teacher guide does include a lot of rubrics to help with teacher grading. And then the extension activities that I mentioned in the traditional curriculum can also be utilized. So an add-on if there's a specific section, again, that teachers really want to focus on. That one about filing the FAFSA, for instance, is really popular with the high school teachers. Just a quick look at what that self-guided portal looks like, since that has been of interest, especially this year. Again, this has the ability to be synchronous or asynchronous, facilitated by an educator. The students get the same content, but it's just broken down a little bit differently into these modules, where students each get a unique login. Teachers are able to track their progress through a dashboard. Within the self-guided portal, there are on-screen presentations. So this is kind of an interactive PowerPoint. There's audio. There are some drag and drop features and fillable features, multiple choice. So it is more engaging for the students to do if they are doing it asynchronously. They're pretty short, only about 10 to 15 minutes in length. And if you're in classroom or in person, teachers will often show this, or at least part of it, on a smart board or something, in front of the class, and then the students can complete the portions individually or follow along. The self-guided lessons also have volunteer videos embedded right into the portal. These are very short, only 2 to 3 minutes in length. Within the portal, there are a few that are available in Spanish. One of our partner areas provided those. And then our local area has actually a full list of Spanish videos available on our YouTube channel as well that closely mirror those. So again, the students get a little bit of outside content from a volunteer related to whatever that specific module's focus is. And then finally, within the self-guided, there are student activities. So these are fillable PDFs that follow the traditional teacher-led curriculum's student workbook. So again, very similar there. Teachers can post these or collect these through their LMS. So if you use Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, whatever it might be, this is a way where students can do those things independently. Teachers are able to give a grade and check for understanding. Whichever curriculum you use for JA Finance Park, after that, those first 4 units, the students participate in the simulation. We have both an on-site and a virtual simulation. I'll tell you about the virtual in a minute. But the on-site simulation is about a 3.5 to 4 hour field trip to our facility in South Nashville, just across from 100 Oaks, so close to Interstate 65 and 440. The students work in small groups, usually 4, 5, or 6 students with 1 volunteer. And for JA Finance Park, because it is mostly high school students, we aim to identify corporate volunteers. We know that parents may or may not be interested, or high schoolers may or may not want their parents around. And so we provide the volunteers when it's safe to do so. And here the students are each going to be given an iPad. On that iPad, they get a randomly assigned life scenario, which gives them their career, their income, their credit score, credit card debt, their student loan debt, if they have any, and that directly relates to whatever their career is. And if they have a job right out of high school, if they have a trade certificate, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree. Some of them will be married, have up to 2 children. Some of them have emergency or retirement savings, and some don't. And over the course of their simulation, they will create a balanced budget. They visit each of the storefronts that you can see here. Each storefront represents a different budget line item. And they have to figure out, okay, based on my budget, how much money do I have to spend on certain products? They don't get the prices for items right away. So that's often a surprise for them. And they then have to make those decisions based on what they had planned for in that budget. I'll give you a hint that daycare is often the one that gets students. They'll aim to pay down their debt, establish some good savings goals. And at the end of the day, what we hope students will will learn from is that even though they may not choose this path that they've been randomly assigned, they can use it as a learning opportunity. If they're able to budget in the JA Finance Park scenario, they can certainly budget in real life. And obviously they can make choices that maybe their persona or their fictitious role didn't make or wasn't able to make based on the circumstances that they were assigned for that day. So a day of adulting. For schools that, due to COVID policies or distance, aren't able to come on site, we do offer the JA Finance Park virtual simulation. This very closely follows the on-site version of the simulation. It is a more self-guided experience. There is not a volunteer integration in this component at this time, but students can complete it at home, or if they're in the classroom, they can complete it individually on their devices with the teacher kind of facilitating, pausing for discussion, talking with their peers, etc. If you do the traditional or the self-guided curriculum, the students will complete one life stage, essentially that late 20 to early 30 something, with a randomly assigned scenario, similar to the on-site simulation. And that lasts about 45 minutes to an hour, can be really drawn out over 2 class periods if the teacher is encouraging of that discussion. And for schools that are using the PBL curriculum, we're offering what's called the advanced simulation. And this is actually 4 life stages where the students will choose their career and then be able to go through both teenager, young adult, working adult, and adult nearing retirement. So their career and their income actually change as they go through each life stage. It takes a little bit longer, closer to 2 hours, and is a great additional resource, if they're not able to come on site. JA Finance Park Logistics, as a capstone program, there is a student fee, but we never want that to be an obstacle for schools. The fee is $15 per student. We do have significant scholarships available for schools based on a number of factors, and a lot of our corporate sponsors are willing to help assist with that. So again, I don't want that to be an obstacle, and going forward, 21-22, the scholarship information will be included directly on the program application. Previously, it was a separate application, so it'll be embedded right in that form. Timeline for the program, in mid-March, probably the week after spring break, we will release the capstone application for next school year. And then schools will begin submitting those late March, really through the end of the summer, July or so. We encourage schools to submit their applications as soon as possible, because if you're coming on site, especially, we do schedule those simulation dates on a first come, first serve basis. So if you have specific dates in mind, we want to make sure that we respond accordingly to those schools. And then teacher training for JA Finance Park is held at the start of each quarter. So schools are able to identify which date might work best for them, August, October, January, or March, depending on how they're planning to implement the program in a semester-long course, quarter-long course, as an optional activity, that sort of thing. Hannah, I'll turn it back to you for JA Inspire.
Yeah, so I was part of the team that helped implement the curriculum portion for JA Inspire. It's a new program to our JA Middle Tennessee office. We piloted the program early this spring with Williamson County 8th graders, Franklin Special School District 8th graders, and Williamson County 9th and 10th graders. So this program, it incorporates pre-event career exploration curriculum. This curriculum can be delivered either educator-led, you've got 2 pre-event sessions, or it can be student self-guided as of this year, and that's made up of 5 pre-event virtual modules that take around 30 minutes per module. Then you have the JA Inspire Virtual Career Fair event, which is that culminating event. But then regardless of the delivery method, you still have the debrief session after the career fair. So here are some great screenshots of what that virtual career fair looks like. The middle shot there is a company's virtual booth, and the companies have options to embed or hyperlink videos or PDFs within this booth that students can click through and kind of collect for their swag bag and then email to themselves to have access to for later. So we have the live day of the career fair, but then the students will also have access to log in and check out and follow up for 3 months after that live day. So the goal of the career fair is for students to understand what courses that they'll need to take in high school. That's why it's so ideal for 8th graders before they get in there and start mapping out their classes for their academy or pathway. They also want, or they'll understand options about post-secondary education if their desired career requires that. They'll learn about specific careers and local employers that they might not have known about beforehand, and then the different opportunities that those local employers offer. Understand the clear map and pathway to their desired career, and then just essentially become excited about their future. So the logistics for JA Inspire is a little different than the rest of our other programs. It requires participation on a larger scale, usually at a district level, like what we did with Williamson County and Franklin Special Schools. The cost for this event can also vary because the back end of the virtual platform for the career fair is so customizable. And we also have the option to bring in local sponsorships with this. And then the implementation timeline, it just really depends on when the event is scheduled for, but ideally students would have access to the curriculum a good 3 months in advance of the live career fair day. And so we are going to follow up in just a bit with an interest survey that we'll put in the chat box. So if you are interested in JA Inspire, you have questions, want to know more about it, just you can notate it there.
And then last but not least, going forward in the 21-22 school year, we're introducing the opportunity for district partnerships. This is something that other JA areas have done before, and we're excited to be able to offer to our schools. These would essentially be multi-year commitments, thinking kind of that 3, 4, 5-year range between a school district and our JA office. That would include any combination of classroom or capstone programs. And ideally, the goal here is really to help our school districts to plan both academically in terms of curriculum or scope and sequence, where they may integrate JA programs to certain grade levels or certain programs, but also to help financially, that if schools are planning for their budgets from one year to the next, and those capstone programs or JA Inspire that require some financial input, they'd be available to plan for that. But then also, because of those multi-year commitments, JA would be able to consider additional scholarships to make that more accommodating for schools. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. So if you've got questions either audibly or in the chat, feel free to post those and we'll go through those. And then Hannah did drop in that jot form link as well. So that's a great place for you to fill out and us to get a little bit more information on how we can best follow up. But any questions at this point about our high school programs that we've covered today? Great, Betsy. Happy to do that. So feel free to fill out that form, and we'll make sure to set something up after with whatever might be best for the people in your district. Hannah, there is a question about JA Inspire. If a private school or a smaller school district with just one school wanted to offer JA Inspire, how would that be feasible?
Ideally, we would like to find a date that works for that private school, and then we could hopefully pair that with other districts in our 22 county reach, or a different private school, and kind of have a small private school day.
Okay, we've got one question about JA Finance Park. Question is, how many students can the on-site simulation accommodate? This year, or pre-COVID, our maximum capacity was 110 students. I would expect that may be the same next year, obviously waiting on some COVID protocols with masks and things of that nature. But JA Finance Park can be run with much smaller groups. I'd say optimally, we'd have anywhere from 50 to 100 students but certainly smaller schools or smaller class sizes of under 50 could also be run. If you're familiar at all with our JA BizTown program for elementary school students, that one does need kind of a higher number in order to run successfully, but JA Finance Park could theoretically be run with just one student. And for the virtual simulation, there is no capacity maximum. So you could have several hundred students completing it at the same time, depending on your school size.
I'm in Williamson County, so I was able to tour the virtual career fair. It was awesome. It was the layout. I even showed it to my advertisement class, and we just discussed about the layout and the graphics and how to get to the different auditoriums, and how it was very user friendly, and how it was simulated to look real. Especially the lobby when you first came in, and how you outside looked like you were downtown Nashville. So I was really impressed with it, and it was very user friendly from my end. So I don't know if you received that same feedback.
Yeah,
but I did take a tour and watch the videos.
That's great. Yeah, we were able to, Betsy, just to give you a kind of update, one way we were able to integrate volunteers through the event, through a lot of pre-recorded videos. We called them kind of webinars over the different career clusters, and we were able to post those for the students to see kind of on a timed schedule, as if they were, going to different meetings. And then those, of course, are available for the students for the next couple of months to look at. And we're excited that Williamson and Franklin Special are going to be offering that again this year, this coming year, I should say.
Yeah, that was really good. And then this is my first time learning about it. I don't know about the Capstone, the $15 per student. Like for me, I have 4 preps. But definitely the JA Finance Park curriculum, all of my classes would benefit from that. So I'm just thinking more on that. But I do like the classroom program. There's no reason for me not to be able to take advantage of that. Because I also do the school store, and I have DECA just myself. So these are, topics that will just add more value to what we're already doing.
All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us today. As Hannah mentioned, we will go ahead and send out the copy of the slides with some of those hyperlinks, as well as a recording of the session, so that you have that for future reference and to share with your teams. If you have any questions in the meantime, you can see our email addresses there on the screen. We look forward to sending those follow-ups, hopefully sometime next week.